talk about the context of the president's comments yesterday. I want to put them in the fuller context as well, that the president went to New Hampshire to make a policy argument against Republicans on the issue of prescription drugs, but the majority, more of his comments yesterday were really some of the most dire warnings we've heard from this president yet about a return to a Donald Trump presidency and what it would mean for this country. He talked about world leaders pulling him aside, saying he can't win. He talked about the concern, what it would mean for future generations of America. How concerned is the president about, at this point, about the state of the race? Is he worried that Trump is on a path to victory?
So look, I'm not going to talk about the state of the race. You heard from the president. You just laid out very clearly about what the president talked about yesterday in New Hampshire. He laid out what his thoughts were. He laid out what the stakes are for this country. And this is somebody who cares clearly, very deeply about the future of this country. And so I'm not going to get into what he thinks about the race in this current moment. That is not something that I'm here to do. I am no longer a political pundit. I am the White House press secretary. I speak for the president, but obviously I cannot speak to the 2024 election. And you did talk about something else, right? Where you talked about what he went to do on the official side. And I would read you some quotes here, some headlines that we saw in New Hampshire today from the New Hampshire press, which I think is really important. Biden Sanders tout prescription drug cost savings at New Hampshire event. Another one, Biden and Bernie Sanders highlight lower prescription drug costs in New Hampshire stop. That is important. The president wanted to go to New Hampshire to talk about what he and the vice president have been able to do in more than 3.5 years. Lowering prescription drugs, beating Big Pharma. He talked about the Inflation Reduction Act. By the way, no Republican voted for that. Now it is popular with Democrats and Republicans, and this is something that is going to change people's lives. And so that's what he was there for. He talked about, let's not forget what they've been, other things they've been able to do, whether it's the bipartisan gun violence protection, being able to do that in a bipartisan way, and dealing with COVID, that put our economy in a downturn. And this president has been able to empowering the economy. And we are now leading as a country in the world when it comes to the economy. So I think he was able to do both things. I think he was able to speak his mind on the political, nature of where we are right now, which he spoke to. And I think people in New Hampshire got a sense of what the president is trying to do on behalf of them in talking about lowering costs. We saw that in the New Hampshire papers. So it broke through, and I think that's important.
You were with the president last week in Germany when he
Yes.
says he had these conversations with world leaders expressing their dire concern about the election here. What has been his response to those world leaders about that?
I'm not going to get into private diplomatic conversations, and I will just leave it there.
I'll ask you, NBC News is reporting that the vice president's likely to spend election night here in Washington, perhaps at her alma mater of Howard University. Do we have an understanding yet of where the president will be and how he plans to vote?
As soon as you all know, we certainly will share that with all of you. I will say is that the president is certainly looking forward to casting his ballot in Delaware. And so once we have the full information on what his day is going to look like, or what the last couple of days leading up to November 5th will look like, we certainly will share that with all of you.